Secretary of State Joel Rubin to discuss this with us. Joel, I want to start with the new promise of more weapons to Ukraine. The U.S. has dedicated more than $3 billion worth of weapons already. It obviously sounds like a lot to somebody who doesn't have billions of dollars, but can you put that amount into perspective and what they're going to get in addition and compared to what the U.S. stockpile looks like?
Sure, Ashley. It's great to be with you. And $3 billion in weapons is a significant amount of money in terms of American military aid to a foreign government. For example, with Israel, we provide $3 billion of aid in military supply per year. And this has been done, these $3 billion, only since February 24th. And this is for a program that was much smaller before this. So it's a huge amount in comparison to past years. But when we compare it to the overall defense budget, of course, it's minuscule. This coming year, this coming fiscal year, the U.S. defense budget will be about $750 billion. So it is small, but in terms of our global military aid, it's large. And this does help ensure that Ukraine stays in the fight aggressively, continues to take the fight to Russia, and protects their civilians right now in the midst of this war, which has cost way too much life already, but seriously being contested by Ukraine right now.
Yeah. And it seems like, you know, this visit from Antony Blinken and Lloyd Austin, it was kind of presented as like a surprise. And nothing is really a surprise when you talk about Washington and the White House, but a surprise to people maybe who weren't a part of planning it. Do you think that was purposeful? Was there a need for it to kind of be under the radar until it was actually happening?
Yeah, there's a phrase, operational security, and that really means a lot in this case, because sending the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State is the fourth in line to the president. Sending them into a live war zone is highly risky. Just hours after the two men were arriving in Kyiv, there was a bombing attack by Russia of a train station not far from where they had been before. So it's real. And that's why even here in Washington, word didn't leak from Washington policymakers. Actually, word leaked from President Zelensky himself, where he mentioned it at a press conference. I think that for the two men to go and their teams to go, it did demonstrate real resolve, real in-person depth of commitment to Ukraine. And so it was risky, but clearly it was worth the risk.
Yeah. And you were talking about that bombing of a train station. I hesitate to think that that is a coincidence. Is that of concern that something like that would happen so close to their visit?
You're absolutely right. It has been a concern throughout, and that's why our diplomats were taken out of Kyiv prior to the beginning of this war, because American personnel, being in harm's way is something that the United States continually tries to avoid. And we have not had a lot of high-level visits going into Ukraine. We've had a couple of members of Congress. They went about a week and a half ago. We've seen European leaders go as well. This trip, they didn't fly directly into Ukraine either. They went into Poland and then trained across. And it is risky. And one does not want to see something occur where Russia does hit an American official. And if that did, that would create a whole new phase in this conflict. So fortunately, it went smoothly.
Yeah. And what does that communicate to you, that the U.S. government is willing to take that risk and send U.S. officials there? What does that communicate to you? And also, what should it communicate to us as the American people who are watching this happen?
Yeah, you know, Ashley, I think this is a new day in America's engagement with Ukraine. I think that by sending these two officials to Ukraine, President Biden is saying that we're in this for the long haul and that we're going to get our eyes and ears on the ground. When Secretary Austin, who's a military man, goes and meets his counterpart in a hot war zone, he is speaking official to official about what it is that they need in Ukraine. And this is the kind of communication that is at a higher level and a deeper connectivity than we've had before. And in addition to that, we're going to restore our diplomatic facilities in Ukraine to have eyes and ears on the ground, working with the Ukrainian people on humanitarian assistance, supporting those who want to come to the United States as refugees, and really engaging with the Ukrainian government in a very tactile, day-to-day basis. And that is a higher order of commitment than we've seen up to now in terms of American-Ukrainian governmental connection.
Right. So I want to end by talking about moving forward. President Biden nominated Bridget Brink as the new ambassador to Ukraine. She's the current U.S. ambassador to Slovakia. Talk to us about what her new role is going to entail and why this is so significant.
Well, what it means, first and foremost, that Ambassador Brink is a career Foreign Service officer, meaning she is a lifetime diplomat. So she doesn't need to get any training. She's not a political appointee. She knows how to do the job right away in that part of the world. She already has the existing relationships in that part of the world because she has served in that region and in that bureau within the State Department that handles European affairs. And this means that she's going to be able to organize on the ground with the non-governmental groups, with the Ukrainian government, with civil society, with the media, to really ensure that the United States is maximizing our engagement and that we're not learning third hand about what's happening on the ground, that our people are right there on the ground. And it's going to impact the kind of design of our assistance programs, the kind of design of our military programs, and ultimately the diplomatic positions that we take at the United Nations, at the European Union, and ultimately with the Russians in trying to get them to stop this bloody, unjustifiable war.
Yeah. Joel Rubin, as you have from day one, thank you for coming here and adding context to us for us. We appreciate you.